Hello, and welcome to the budget episode of the Just Off Harbor podcast for Disneyland vacations. For the record, we may have already recorded 10 minutes of this episode and realized that we didn't have our mics on and it was all a bust. So we're going to repeat the things we talked about. Hopefully we can say it even a little more concise. So maybe it will be a benefit to you guys.
We'll see. Hopefully we don't leave anything out, because we were like, wow, we're really killing it.
We know what we're saying.
Flowing. Things were going good. We were getting out really good points. So maybe we'll forget all those, but we'll try.
Anyway, budgets for Disneyland vacations. We have spent the morning pricing out some vacations over the course of like the next year, if you were to budget, plan a trip for the next year. And we just spent on our last episode some time talking about all the different events and things that are happening in Disneyland through the course of the year and why you might want to travel at certain times. And now we're going to go over like how much it might cost you to go at those different times. So if you still don't really know when you want to go based on events and ride closures and seasonal things, then maybe go back to that episode and rewatch some things and then come back here and see which one can fit your budget.
One thing that we had mentioned previously, we're going to bring out all the pieces because we feel like we've said it all, but you haven't heard it all yet, is that when you go to price a Disneyland vacation on the website, you might feel immediately overwhelmed by the fact that booking like the Disneyland Hotel or the Grand Californian or Pixar Place can feel really expensive. And one thing that you need to note about this, especially if you're a Disney Worlder, have ever been to Disney World and you're thinking like, I have to be on property in order to have a good vacation or to have access to things or to have all the benefits or whatever, is that the difference between Disneyland and Disney World is that Disneyland, staying on property is a perk just because you're in the bubble and it's fun and it feels fancy, but it's not necessary. And in some ways it's actually less convenient.
You don't have nearly as many perks that come with when you go to stay on Disney World on property. You basically get like proximity and like
a half an hour of early entry. Yeah, that's it. And you know, the benefit of theming and being in the bubble and knowing you have really nice cast members in your hotels helping you and feeling like it's a special vacation. For sure, there's value in that. But when it comes to pricing it out and
it's
you go
not
to the
only option.
Yeah, you go to the Disneyland website and you're like, crap, it's $6,000 for the week I want to be there. I can't pay that. I guess I can never go to Disneyland. It might be $2,500 at the property across the street.
That's what we're talking close, about is the difference.
Yeah. So
it's a huge difference.
Don't just write it off because you think it's expensive. It is expensive, but most of that expense can be remedied in how you go about your trip. And you're not going to lose vacation fun necessarily by picking something off site that's just as convenient overall. And you may gain the ability to go on the trip that you want to go on off of that. So
one thing that we weren't really planning on talking about, but I feel like is important, is your flights and transportation. This is something that we don't do as travel agents. We don't book flights for you, but as you are planning out your budget for your entire trip, because flights are a huge part of your budget that you need to plan into, depending on how far away from California you live. There are basically three airports to fly into when you're going to Disneyland. It's LAX, which is Los Angeles. You can go to John Wayne, Orange County, or you can go to Long Beach. John Wayne and Long Beach are significantly closer than LA. If you look on a map, it's basically like a 20 to 25 minute drive versus like a 45 to 50 minute drive, but you're not calculating in LA traffic, LA, the costs of transportation. Like if you're booking a shuttle or an Uber is quite a bit more. So if you have any questions about airports or where to go into, feel free to ask us. We have a lot of information we can give you and helping you to decide. We're just not specifically booking those for you.
But we're happy to help. Yeah.
You're looking at being like, well, my flight into LA is only $200, but going into John Wayne's $275. We would help explain where that $75 benefit may be worth it to spend that extra to be closer, or maybe it's not. So we want to help you like figure those things out, but just wanted to add that into the budget episode a little bit because it is something you really need to like math in and think about, and something we can help you with, but we're just not booking those for you.
Right. So definitely take that into consideration. And we've traveled enough. We've gone into all of those airports, so we understand the pros and cons of each, but we can also maybe give you a little bit better of an idea of like which airlines fly into each one and what you're most like, for instance, when we fly Breeze, which is one that we fly a lot through our local airport, that one only goes into Santa Ana. But if we fly Southwest, that one lands in Long Beach. So different flights kind of head different ways. And so based on even what airline you're looking at, we can maybe kind of help guide you into what you're likely going to find in terms of services. And when it comes to your shuttles to and from the airports, one thing to think about with LAX is even because it's such a large airport, it's an international airport compared to the more like local Santa Ana and Long Beach, you're not just dealing with the transportation from the airport to where you're going. You're also dealing with getting all your luggage and all your children and all your whatever to the places that you need to be within the LAX airport to just get on your shuttle. So there's logistical parts of that, stressful parts of that you may want to consider too, of just like Santa Ana, for instance, is the quietest airport. It's so quiet. It's like you walk right out from the luggage claim and you go right to your shuttle, and there's no questioning. There's no ambiguity there. And so some of it is you're paying a little bit for convenience of going into those local airports, but some of it's your just peace of mind, like just feeling like it's something that feels doable for you. And I feel like for first timers that can help a lot, because for me, when I'm planning stuff with my kids, half of the battle in my brain is like, can I logistically get myself to that place? That feels hard.
Well, and with little kids, there's things like strollers and car seats, and will they fit in an Uber that I call, or can I get them buckled in, or what's the
or the shuttle that you're getting? Does the shuttle you're getting have a car seat you're happy with, and all those things, you know?
So again, we're here to help you with that. But moving into the hotel and ticket portion of your expense. We also want to talk about dining, like what to plan as far as food when you are going to Disneyland, and also like what to budget for like souvenirs and things like that. We want to go over that too. But as far as your hotel and ticket portion, that's kind of what we want to go over first. We have based all of these quotes on a 4-person family, like 2 adults, 2 kids, but we did price one of the children at an adult size ticket because it's so annoying. Children's tickets only are from ages 3 to 9. So if your kid is 10, they're an adult priced ticket, which is so annoying, but it's just is what it is. But this is based on one standard sized room, and a family of 4. And so as you're hearing us tell numbers, if you've got a family of 5, plan that it might be a little bit more because you need one more ticket, but you can still fit in the standard size room. If you need a family suite that sleeps more like 6 people, or if you've got grandparents staying with you, all those things might be more, but we can price out all of those things for you. We have a quote request link in our bio on Instagram and also under this video where you can click in and ask for a request for your specific group and tell us we have lots of questions on there that specifically ask about how old the kids are, who's traveling with you, what specific needs might you have, is being on property important to you, or breakfast, or all of those things. So we really want to help you narrow down and figure out what's the best option for you within your budget and at the time of year that you want to go.
Yep. And just keep that in mind. Also, one more thing to mention before we dig into this is, as we say these numbers, sometimes hearing $4,000 sounds like, oh my gosh, where am I going to come up with $4,000? But something to think about is that in order to book any of these things that we're talking about, and any trip with us, other than through like cruise line and stuff has a little bit different deposits and stuff like that, but Disneyland and Disney World, it works the same. And that is, you only need to put $200 down on any of these trips to reserve them. And that's $200 that goes toward your trip. That's not like a fee for us or anything. That's literally just your deposit for yourself. So you put that $200 down, and then over the course of the trip, the year leading up to your trip, or the months or the weeks or whatever, you can split the rest of your payments up however you want. You can either pay monthly, some portion as you're going along, or you can decide to pay it all up front, or you can decide to pay it all at the very end, 30 days before you travel. So when we're saying these numbers, you can book this room we're talking about. It might be $4,300 in September, but you can pay that in increments that make sense for you.
You got to pay it over the next 9 months, and it's going to cost you $400 a month or $300 a month. And so it's one of those things that you just kind of can math in a little bit.
Yeah.
And so just think about that a little bit as we move forward. And you will never be penalized for booking early. So if a ticket deal comes along where your kids' tickets are cheaper, or a fourth night free happens on your hotel that wasn't existing before, or Disneyland hotels do a 25% off their hotel rooms, we get to apply those to your trip before. And if you've already paid it in full, we refund you. And if you haven't paid it in full, you now have a new total. Instead of the higher total, you pay the lower total. So that's one of the benefits of having us book it for you, is we constantly monitor this. We know all the deals that are happening. We know the hotel discounts that are happening. We check back over your specific reservation to make sure that something didn't apply that should be applied for you. So booking early is always going to be better. You're never going to be penalized for it. You will always get the best deal.
And on top of that, when you book early, like let's say you decide you want to book the Disneyland hotel, and let's say 3 months from now you have a change of heart and you decide that you really just want to stay off property, you'd rather be at the Tropicana, or you'd really rather splurge and you want to go to the Grand Californian. Whatever the thing is, we can adjust your ticket or your hotel reservation. This isn't set in stone for you. We can adjust how many days you want to be there. We can adjust what kind of tickets you want. If you thought you wanted a hopper and now you want a single park per day, or vice versa, if you want to add lightning lane, all of those pieces to this trip that you're deciding on, if you have decision overwhelm, like some people do, like we do, we get paralyzed by like, what should we do? How should we do it? And instead of just like making a choice, you just make no choices. Don't do that, because you can make the single choice to book literally anything, and we can make any adjustments up to and including canceling it completely and refunding you your $200 up until 30 days before you travel. So don't feel tied in, but we can always book you, like we were talking about this earlier with something like Halloween. It books up really, really fast. And so if you're thinking about going to a Halloween trip this coming year, booking it in the next month or two and getting having your pick of the litter when it comes to hotels is going to really benefit you, because we can't magic up for you rooms that don't exist, but we can always adjust if you change your mind on what you actually want right now. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about this. You're not tied to anything. You can always change your mind. If an event comes up you're excited about, you can switch and do that, You
can put whatever amount money down whenever it feels like. If you want $200 now, and then you get your tax return in April and you've got $2,000, you just throw it at it. You can decide when and where you want to put that. So we're just happy to do whatever is helpful to make that happen for you. We don't want it to feel overwhelming.
No.
We very rarely have $4,000 sitting around that we're like, here.
Yeah.
Well, it's usually over time, and there's no layaway fees and stuff like that when we book through Disney. And so we can just do that for you, get it all scheduled, and be great.
Yeah. So just the moral of this little dialogue here, monologue, whatever you want to call it, is just that we're here for you. There's tons of options and alternatives. There's so many directions you could take your trip that would still all be fun and valuable and work for your specific situation. And our job is literally just to help you find whatever that is for you. That's it. If you have $2,000 to put toward your trip, we will do our best to figure out what we need to do. If you have $10,000 to put toward your trip, we are happy to help you with that too. We want it to be what you feel like you need to do. And obviously we aren't magic. We can only work within a budget that makes sense, but we're not in any way trying to convince you to do something that doesn't work for you. That's not who we are. So,
one last thing, just to be really, really clear about what we do as travel agents. When you book a trip directly on the Disneyland website, they have already mathed in a amount of money to pay a travel agent. If you just book it directly through Disney just pockets that extra commission that they would pay a travel agent, and they're your travel agent. They get the money, they keep it, they deal with your trip, and / you deal with your trip with them, and they keep that.
And if you need to make changes, you have to call Disney and deal with being on hold and figure.
She was on hold for an hour yesterday,
just dealing with my own trip. And as travel agents, we get on the phone and do that for you. So if suddenly you have changes or questions or room requests or special considerations, we advocate for you.
We often have people just be like, "What's the catch? Why are you doing this for me for free?" We're not, but you are not paying us. This is not coming from you. This is not making your trip more expensive. Disney just doesn't get to keep that commission. They give it to us instead. So it helps support our small business. It helps support what we're trying to do here. And it helps us to be able to give all this information to you. We love planning these trips for you and making these perfect. So, our little soapbox.
As a final
One final
to what she's saying is, if you're watching this and you are a Disney veteran and you are completely capable of booking your own trip, and maybe you are a retreat guest of ours or a million other ways that maybe you have found this page, but you don't feel like you need travel agent services, we get that. But also we would love your support. So this is our little plug to say that, like, if you want to support our business, we would love to be able to benefit from helping you. And it doesn't cost you anything. It's just supporting us. And so don't feel like, I don't need a travel agent, because we want to be your travel agents. And
we're super fun.
Yeah.
So the first time of year we want to talk about is like off season. Off season's a great time to go to Disneyland. Off season is typically like January and February and maybe early March. Right now, for instance, they're running a ticket deal on kids tickets where it's only $50 a day, literally like January 7th through March 20th. So like I said, like January, like early March, because that's their off season, that's their slow season. They're trying to bring in business, and they're willing to do kids at such a low rate. So it's actually a really great time to go if you've got lots of little kids in that like 3 to 9 range. So again, right now we've priced all of these trips as 2 adults, 2 kids, but one of those kids is an adult ticket price. So if you have littler kids, it'll be a little bit cheaper. If you have more kids, maybe a little bit more. But and these are
kids that are under 3 are free.
This is a 4-night trip with 3-day park hopper tickets. So again, you can remove the park hopper if you don't feel like that's important. You can add Lightning Lane if you feel like that's important. All of this is adjustable. This is just kind of to give you a ballpark to know what you could expect. So in the off season, I've priced this one like mid-January, 4 nights. If you wanted to stay at the Disneyland Hotel, it would be $3,800. So mathed out between 4 people, that's less than $1,000 a person for a trip, which doesn't sound terrible. And also keep in mind that this off season right now is mathed based on the fact that it's next month. So like this is kind of last minute off season, not booked a year in advance off season. So if we were to, you can't actually book January right now, but in a few months
for 2026
for next January. And it would be a little bit cheaper if you're booking ahead. But like, for instance, right now, Disneyland Hotel has the extra 25% off on their rates, and you've got the kid ticket that's a little bit cheaper and things like that. So all these things help. The next one I priced out is a Westin. It is probably like the premier luxury hotel in the area that is not on property. It's located right behind the Incredicoaster. So like if you were to go straight back behind, that's where it is across the street. And it's at $3,200. So $3,800 to be at the Disneyland Hotel, $3,200 to be off property, but still like high quality off property. And then I also priced out the Suncoast Hotel, which is a little bit farther away, but it's still walkable. And it's a newly renovated hotel. It's one of our favorite hotels. The rooms are very large. And we really like it over there. $2,500 for your family of 4. So that's for like
the 4 nights.
That like $600 a person.
Something like that.
For a 4-day vacation. So, the difference between $2,500 and $3,800, again, for being at a nice, pretty decent off-property location versus on-property.
12-minute walk to the Disneyland sign.
Yeah, like, so this is where we're saying, like, if you've gone onto the Disneyland website and been like, oh no, I can't afford that. Like, you can have the exact same trip for, what did I say, $1,300 less. So it just depends on what's important to you, what amenities you feel like are important, if you want to be within the Disney bubble. But that's about what you can expect for kind of an off-property pricing for a family of 4.
Last minute.
This is, like I said, this is January.
In a month.
If you were to go in February, I bet it's maybe even a little bit cheaper because it's a little farther away and still considered off-season or early March. This was just the early January one that I had priced out.
Right. Okay, so moving into spring break, and by the way, I think we mentioned this, but our previous episode, we've gone over month by month by month what to expect in any of these periods in terms of like potential refurbishments and weather and, crowd levels and all that kind of stuff. So as we go over, because we're just going to broadly talk about these, if you're like, well, I have no idea if I want to go at spring break, go back and listen to the episode before if you missed it and get a better feel in your brain for the things that are making or breaking these options for you. So for spring break, we priced out the first week in April. That's like peak spring break season. I think probably that's over our spring break.
Probably the most expensive spring break season week.
Yeah. So Pixar Place, which is one of the Disneyland hotels. It's the newest, most recently renovated ones. It's over kind of, again, behind the Incredicoaster a little bit, but there's a special entrance into DCA directly from there, which is really a nice perk. It's actually a really fun hotel.
And if you're staying over there, you should always have a park hopper.
Yes, because you always want to be able to access DCA, even if you're in Disneyland most of the day, so that you can walk right through DCA and out that entrance, and
you're going to be
vice
much
versa.
happier.
Yeah. So April 1st through the 5th is what this is priced out for, and Pixar Place is pretty much $4,400, just under $4,400. So compared to what Britton said about the off season, you're looking at another $600 more to be on property,
and at the lowest tier on property versus the Disneyland hotel. Like, I mean, really,
lowest tier is relative. I feel like
with the new renovation,
I feel like they're actually pretty much 6s in most ways. The only thing about Pixar Place is just that it's a little less centrally located, where Disneyland is kind of like equal location between DCA and Disneyland. If you're going from Pixar Place back to Small World, it's a bit of a hike. But generally speaking, the proximity of DCA in some ways, I feel like is actually
lowest
a
tier
perk.
Under Disney's normal regulations, I would say, if Disney was to say this is our highest tier, mid tier, and it's like the third of the 3,
maybe.
But I think with all of the renovations and, like you said, the new entrance into DCA, I love Pixar Place.
I actually feel like in general, especially for kids, it's almost more convenient than Disneyland Hotel in some ways, because Disneyland Hotel is also quite sprawling. There's several locations surrounding a giant pool, and Pixar Place is a little bit more of one single large tower. And so it feels like you go in the lobby and you go to the elevator and you go to your room, and it feels a little bit more like compact in a way that Disneyland Hotel feels kind of more, I don't know. And yeah, the Disneyland Hotel has like the monorail to get you to and from, but it's not always open and that kind of thing. So I don't know. I feel like Pixar Place and Disneyland Hotel are 6s for me.
At this point, yeah, for sure.
For the most part. So anyway, Pixar Place.
Sorry, that was a tangent.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that Pixar Place I would not call it less good than the Disneyland Hotel at this point.
It was more like price wise,
yeah, it is. It's usually the cheapest.
That's more what I meant as far as lowest tier, meaning lowest cost typically. So I'm saying Disneyland Hotel, on off season was $600 cheaper, but it was also the little bit
better,
more expensive hotel.
Yeah,
typically.
Yeah. Okay,
that's all. Sorry,
back to this.
I'll stop talking.
Pixar Place, $4,400, and then you move to the Howard Johnson. And the reason that we've done the Howard Johnson, even though generally speaking, I wouldn't necessarily call it it's definitely not Westin level, like how Britton was saying. The Westin's like the premier luxury, whatever. The Hojo isn't that, but proximity wise, it's quite close, and it has a great little water park area for little kids. And so since this is a spring break price out, we like the Hojo just because you're likely to be wanting to enjoy the pool and the weather and that kind of thing. So Hojo is $3,200. So you lose $1,000 off your overall cost to go from Pixar Place to Hojo, and really they're probably 6s in location in terms of walking distance.
And really, I think when we were looking at it, Hojo Tropicana, Camel, like all those ones like right across the street are right in this price range.
That same ballpark, like, around 32.
That's about what you're going to be paying for that like mid-tier, really close location for those hotels.
And then third on the list, we've got the Hyatt Regency Orange, which this one's a little further away. It's not really walkable, but if you have a car and you want to drive to and from the parking structure, or if you're willing to ride their shuttle, which is $6 a day per person. I believe kids under a certain age aren't, or less money, or maybe free. I can't remember what their thing is. But the point is they have a shuttle that literally pulls up in front of the lobby.
They're like one of the only hotels that actually pulls a shuttle directly into Disneyland property.
Yeah.
And it goes back and forth like every
15 minutes. So like, I can't remember which it is, but like, let's say it's at 15 minutes and 45 minutes in front of the hotel, and at 30 minutes and top of the hour, it's in front of the Disneyland, like, pull around area.
So you don't have to wait very long.
Yeah. You can always kind of judge it and be like, oh, looks like the shuttle will be here in about 15 minutes. Let's wrap this up or whatever. So we've done that more than once, and we really like the Hyatt. It's a great building, great location. It's got food options right in the hotel. So that's a great option. And it is $27.25 because it's one of the hotels that has a fourth night free. So for $2,700 over spring break, you can get these prices that we're saying here. So that's actually kind of a killer deal. I like that one. So good call.
Look at me. So that's spring break. So just... People always say spring break, it's going to be so expensive. It's so crowded. Yeah. Manage your expectations of crowds. But you can do it at a good rate. You don't have to pay $1 million. You don't have to go to Pixar Place for $4,400. You can be there. You can be at Hyatt for $2,700 and have a perfectly lovely trip.
Right.
So again, just depending on what your budget is.
Right. And really, honestly, your highest cost in all this is going to be your flights. Like, that's the thing over spring break. And that's another thing to consider as you're mapping out these trips is like, maybe the hotel's a little bit more expensive for some reason, whether it's seasonally a more interesting Disneyland time or whatever, but maybe flights are more of an off-season time. So think about that a little bit too as you're picturing your overall budget. It's not all coming from, it all comes from the same pot, but it can go different ways into your vacation. So just keep that in mind.
For sure. The next one I priced out is actually summer, full like middle of July. And actually it's the 13th through the 17th.
It's a Disneyland birthday.
Which is Disneyland birthday. So it's going to be maybe a little higher than maybe toward the end of July just because of that. But I priced out Disneyland Hotel is at $4,800. So this is where you're going to be starting to see things just even a little bit more, especially on property.
But something else to consider about this is, unlike these earlier ones where you're still falling within the current Disneyland on-property deals that they're running, they could very well suddenly have some sort of summer rate going on that's going to adjust these prices. That's one thing when you're booking further out to think about is like, because we were looking at this for our December one that we'll talk about in a minute, where it's actually cheaper right now to go like next week. Like arrive this Saturday at Disneyland than it is the same dates a year from now at Disneyland. And it's because they haven't dropped the same promotions for next December that they have running currently this December.
So the chances of it being cheaper than even this is high.
Yeah, these are worst case scenarios.
You can get your stuff reserved and maybe start putting a little bit of money toward it over the course of the year instead of having to come up with it all at once. Yeah. But anyway, looking at Disneyland Hotel, $4,800 versus back in January, I said it was $3,800 at the Disneyland Hotel. So for, again, $1,000 cheaper, you can still do the Disneyland Hotel vacation that you were maybe hoping for, but maybe you should be going in January instead of July if you're on a budget. And if you're not, and you want the summer weather and all those by all means, then just plan that's $4,800 for your family of four,
and that's worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario with no extra deals, no summer ticket things, no anything like that happening currently. The second one I priced out was the Courtyard Marriott theme park entrance. It's the one that's directly across from the Disneyland sign. And it has the biggest water park. It's a huge, cute water park with like the water slides that go down into like they don't go down into a pool. They're like
love
the
it.
safe
Yeah,
water
I can
slides.
send my 4-year-old up there. He was 4 when we stayed there, and he went up and did that all by himself, and I just stood at the bottom, so I didn't have to walk the steps like 100 times with him.
Also, all of their rooms have bunk beds, like 2 queens and a set of bunk beds and 2 showers. So this is one of those like nice off-property, like, you know, I would say premier off-property locations, and it's super close to the park.
Yeah, they also have it's indoor entrances, unlike the Fairfield where it's more like outdoor. The Fairfield Marriott that's next door, you go in, you walk into an elevator, everything's an indoor entrance, and you have in the lobby both a gift shop and a cafe
And a Starbucks.
Yeah, with a Starbucks in it. So it's got a lot of amenities that some of the other options nearby don't offer. So
So $3,600. And I priced this one specifically with the water park because middle of July, summer, you want to use that water park.
Yep.
And because of the extra bunk beds, like this, it's technically a 6-person room, not necessarily, and that's what all their rooms are, is these 6-person rooms. So if you do have 4 kids, you just add a couple more tickets, but your room price is the same. So, but you can fit everybody in there, be really nice and comfortable, 2 bathrooms. Great location, $3,600. So again, you're maybe a little more expensive than like the Howard Johnson, for instance, over spring break, but not much more. Bigger hotel, closer hotel, nicer room, bigger water park within the same amount of money, I would say. And then the third one I did was the Best Western Stovall's Inn. So this one's actually one that we stayed at
we like
this last year, and we really liked it. It's actually located back by the Westin, back behind DCA, kind of on the corner of the Pixar Pal Around and stuff on that side in the corner. And it has free breakfast. It's because it's a Best Western. All Best Westerns, by the way, keep in mind, they always have free breakfast. So if you ever stayed at Best Western, that's included. The breakfast was good.
Yeah.
And the rooms were fairly newly renovated. They have like fun topiaries that they've had there since like the 60s that are like shaped like animals and stuff around
Dolphins
the property.
and stuff.
So it's a fun like family property and not super far away, especially again, you want a park hopper because you can leave through DCA and take that shorter walk back to your hotel.
we didn't mind it at all. Like it was really location wise probably not worse than
because
the
you
Hojo.
walk by
really
by Pixar Place, which is right there. They have a lot of very lit up, like there's lots of lights and plants, and like you feel very, very safe walking back and forth. Anyway, $2,900 in the summer for your family of 4. That's like $800 a person to have a really awesome summer vacation. So
with free breakfast.
With free breakfast. So love that option.
Yeah, that's a great one. Okay, next up, I have priced out Halloween. This is, of all of these times that we've said so far, well, maybe spring break, because that's coming up and it's busy. But this also, I feel like, is if you're thinking about going during this time of year, now is the time to book this particular thing, because something about Halloween, I don't know if it's just, I don't know. It's just
everybody loves Halloween.
It books up really fast. And the thing is, maybe in July or August, if you're suddenly wanting a last minute September trip, you can definitely book something. We can always find you a hotel, but it's not going to be a great price, and it's not going to be the hotel you want to be at. Right now, you have the pick of the litter. When we were looking this morning, we could have chosen literally any hotel on our list of choices throughout Anaheim. And these are the ones we have chosen, handpicked out of that list, because we feel like they're good options for the situation. But just keep that in mind. $200 down now, and you can wait 6 months to make your next payment if you need to. Like, you can do what you want, but you're going to feel bad if it's July and you finally pull the trigger on this.
Because you feel like you have the money, which again, you can keep saving up that money. You just need to put your $200 down now, or whenever we book it. And then you can wait 6 months to make another payment. You don't have to do that right away. You can use your tax return money. You can wait until summer, until it makes more sense.
So just we're not trying to be like, book now or ever, or things will disappear. But in this particular situation, this is a little bit of a time is of the essence thing. If this particular trip is important to you, these locations and prices won't hang around. And again, we can always adjust if things get cheaper, if deals come up, if you change your mind, whatever. But just don't wait. Okay, so Pixar Place, which we already mentioned, is an amazing location for all the reasons we already said, but additionally because during Halloween, because of Oogie Boogie Bash, if you're planning to attend Oogie Boogie Bash, being able to like go to your hotel and get all ready to go in and then walk right back into that back DCA entrance is really convenient and accessible instead of like hiking across the Esplanade or whatever. Even if you're at the Disneyland hotel, you've got a long haul over in your costume to Oogie Boogie Bash. So that's why I priced this one specifically for this case. So right now it's $4,300, almost $4,400. So basically the same as what we had said for spring break. And that's for Pixar Place, standard 2-queen room. Then next up, I've also priced out the Courtyard theme park, which we already mentioned was the one with the bunk beds, and the water park and everything.
Which again, like
it's
we said,
hot
September is hot.
This is the time of year you still want to access that. And it's really conveniently located. And you're looking at $3,600, which how does that compare to what you said
36.
on the same literally the exact same price to the penny for the summer or the September dates, which I've priced out for the end of September.
The other fun thing about picking a hotel with a water park during like Oogie Boogie Bash is a lot of times people don't like to waste one of their park ticket days on a day they're doing Oogie Boogie Bash. They want to like
take it easy in the morning.
So that's one of those days that you could take it easy in the morning, sleep in, go to the pool for the midday, go back to your hotel and take a nap, get ready for Oogie Boogie Bash, and stay out late with your family. Like, it's a really good, like, that's one of those times where, like, your hotel amenities, you can take a little bit more advantage of if you're doing a non-park day until you go to Oogie Boogie Bash that day.
Yep.
So, Courtyard's a great option for that.
Which, another thing to think about, actually, with that whole situation and with Oogie Boogie is, like Britton said, a lot of time, most people, if you're going to go to Oogie Boogie Bash, it's like $125, up to $150 a person. And most people aren't wasting a park ticket day on an Oogie Boogie Bash day because they don't want to spend basically a full park ticket on a half-day park day and then also pay for a full Oogie Boogie Bash party. So most people, if you don't have a magic key, you're not going in the parks for that half day. But what I want to bring up about that is we priced this out for 4 nights and 3 park days. And if you are doing Oogie Boogie Bash, you may be adjusting down to 2 park days or adjusting up to 5 park nights or 5 sleeping nights to adjust for that. So just keep that in mind too, as this will fluctuate a little bit if Oogie Boogie is a priority for you. So the third one on this list is the Sun Coast, which Britton already mentioned. This is a location that we really like. It's very clean, very walkable, pretty new. You feel safe and comfortable going to and from it. And it has a 4th night free. So it is $27.56 for those 4 nights, 3 park days. And that's a great deal.
All of these trips that are like $2,500, $2,700, $2,800 or whatever for a family of 4, that's a pretty good rate. If you're anywhere between $500 and $800 a person, you can, for whatever trip you're doing, if you divide it down to that, you're doing pretty good. Yeah. Because your tickets alone are going to be between $350 and $500. There's nothing you can do about that portion. So if your room you can do, divide it out between everybody for just another couple $100 more a person, then that's about what you can expect for a standard off-property, decent, good budget thing. When you're staying on property, it's going to be more, or at one of the higher tier hotels, it's going to be a little bit more. But again, under $1,000 a person for a higher tier off property is also pretty good. Between $800 and $1,000 is what you can expect. So, that was confusing, but to reiterate,
it made sense to me, but maybe reiterate
between $500 and $800 for a nice, but maybe a little farther
and maybe
property,
maybe less bougie, less amenities, but
basic, clean, comfortable clothes
would stay there.
Maybe not a lot of amenities. Between $500 and $800 a person. For a bougier off property like the Westin or the Courtyard with the 2 bathrooms and the water park, between $800 and $1,000 a person. Once you start being on property, between $1,000 and $1,500 a person is more what you're going to be finding.
Yeah.
So, and again, that adjusts a little bit based on, for instance, if you only have 2 adults going, your hotel per person is more because you're not dividing it between 4 people.
But you're paying less tickets.
But you're paying less tickets. So it's just like...
And there's also things like, for instance, we haven't priced any of these out at the Grand Californian because the Grand Californian is sort of an anomaly. Like,
it is a premium no matter what you do. Yeah, like, take any of these Disneyland hotels
and add like $200 a night.
Yeah.
To any of them. Or to any of the... Yeah, to the either the Pixar Place or the Disneyland, Grand California is almost always going to be where the Disneyland hotel is $600 a night. Grand Californian is $8. Where Pixar Place is $5, Grand Californian is going to be $7. Whatever the thing is, like that's about what you're going to pay for. And for some people, it's worth it. Again, if it's in your budget,
it's always worth it.
The location, you cannot be beat. You are right in the middle of downtown Disney. You are right in the middle of a DCA entrance that goes, like, walks you into the center. You've got great food options on site. The pool is awesome. The hot tubs are huge. The rooms are nice and clean. You feel like, I don't know. I love the Grand California. And I know
the monorail's running through the hotel.
Yeah.
It's very much like you feel in the Disney bubble there.
Yeah. And especially if you're a Disney Worlder and you're used to like more of a big resort feel, that's the one that's going to feel the closest. It's giving like Wilderness Lodge. That's kind of the vibe you're going to get. Wilderness Lodge, I mean, all the Disney World stuff is grander in scale overall, but Grand California is going to be the closest. We love staying at the Grand California. It's just not something we can afford most of the time, or choose to spend our money on.
Within your budget. If you're like, wow, $3,000 is nothing, I have $10,000, lovely. On property has the nicer rooms. It also has club level, which you could decide to budget into your budget or not, which includes access to their club level rooms, which has breakfast. It's the only time you're going to get breakfast on property included in what you're doing. It also has like afternoon, like, snacks and cans of soda and bottles of water. And they do also include a lot of times like wine and beer service that you can go get up there. And then at night they have like a full like dessert bar and like
where you can see fireworks usually and
watch
stuff.
Fireworks and things like that. So having club level is a great option if you're like, I have budget, I can do whatever I want. Let's do it. Let's give you your Grand Californian club level budget.
All inclusive experience. Yeah. And additionally,
this is like, I mean, we're like being like, it's cheap, we promise. But there's so many different ways. You can have a $2,500 Disneyland trip and you can have a $20,000 Disneyland trip.
This is
you
true.
You can decide based on what things you want to include in your budget. And they're all valid. They're all, but we just want to help you find within that budget and what amenities are important to you. Let's find them.
Right. Well, and additionally, on top of the property things that we can help you, but which, by the way, there's even things like you can rent a cabana at the pool, or you can, you can choose those kinds of things too. There's also things like a spa at the Grand Californian. There's the World of Color dessert party. There's adding in additional things like dining packages and things like that to a parade or to a dessert party or to the Tomorrowland Terrace or whatever. And all of those things are choices that you can make, whether that's stuff we book or stuff that we just make you aware of.
I mean, there's park tours, like Christmas, like holiday tours and Halloween tours.
There's VIP tours, which we can book for you, actually.
Yeah, and then also, obviously, your Lightning Lane we can add to your tickets. Those always going to be cheaper to buy it ahead of time if you want it for every day of your trip. So there's always things we can add on. This is like pretty like basic level.
Like you'll have a great trip.
This is the type of trip that we would do on a budget. But we would be like, we're budgeting and like hoppers would be important to us, for instance, but maybe we want to buy Lightning Lane day by day or, so there's, when we give you these, we just wanted to give you a little bit of a ballpark to be like, wow, that's really outside of what I thought a Disneyland trip would be for me. I'm never going to afford it. Or
that's more attainable than
I can have a good trip on $3,000,
Yeah, because you can.
So we're happy to just like help you find that. So that's all. Did you finish Halloween?
Yeah, I think so.
I just want to talk really quickly about Christmas. Again, like this is a year out. But again, without the holiday discounts and things that have come in recently, like right now they have like the Disney Plus discounted Disneyland tickets where you buy 2 days, get the third free, which is not included in this for next year. They have 25% off on property rates, which is not included. Like we were saying, if we booked it for like next week, it would be cheaper than next year.
Because they've brought out those discounts. Deals. Yeah.
So just keep that in mind that again, we would maybe get this reserved for you, but there will probably be discounts down the road that we can apply to make your trip a little bit more affordable. The first one I did was the Disneyland Hotel. It's at $5,000 for the early December. We really like early December, not the very first week because it tends to be a little more crowded. Usually that second week, the 7th through the 15th ish, you're going to have lower crowds, but have all the holiday, very deep holiday involvement.
Well, and what's fun about that is I feel like it gets you excited about Christmas without being encroaching upon your Christmas.
Yeah. You still have time to go home and get ready for Christmas and have Christmas and not have that be your only thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Disneyland Hotel, but we actually, like we said, we priced out the Disneyland Hotel for these dates this year, and it's $4,500. So for $500 more with the extra deals, that's probably about more what you could expect.
Even $500 less.
$500 less. That's probably about more like what you could expect for next year. Even if we booked it at the $5,000, it would probably be less once other deals go in. So that's Disneyland Hotel. The other one, the second one I did is the Grand Legacy Hotel. I wouldn't say this is bougie by any means. But we stay there all the time, and they have recently updated their room. So this is their nicest room that I've priced out, and it's maybe one of the very closest places you can get to the park. My kids, we went and stayed there last Christmas, and my kids were like, we're back at the hotel. It was so fast. They were surprised
you teleported
how quickly we were able to get back and forth from the hotel. And they have a lot of things like free coffee and free popcorn in the afternoons and things like that we just really like the location. And it's $3,400 for next Christmas. And then we also priced out the Cambria. This is one we haven't talked about yet. But we've actually priced this hotel out for families a lot. Yeah. Because they have big rooms,
2 showers,
family suite rooms. So you could add more, you can have bigger rooms, and they also have a huge water park with, and they also have things I feel like they have ping pong and different, they have outdoor entertainment. And
they have a little putting green.
Yeah. So it's
movies by the pool.
Yeah. It's a really fun, nice weather hotel, when you're going to be spending time there. Yep. Big water slides and all of that.
They also have free breakfast.
And hot breakfast with Mickey waffles. Yeah. And fairly newly renovated, even their standard rooms, they have 2 queens in one room and then a separate living area with kind of a kid. I
don't know that all of them do, because I was pricing them out the other day and some do and some don't, but it's not that much different to go from their they have what they call their queen suite, I think, and then their 2 queen standard, but the price is literally a difference of
not very much.
Couple, because $30 a night or something.
The family one, because it's not that much more, and it's
I know
you want this.
I usually pick it too. Even if it's 3 adults, I'll be I'll just price it for that because it does feel nicer to have just that little sitting area. So
anyway, the Cambria is sitting only at $2,700. It's a little farther away, but it is a very short walk to the Toy Story parking lot, where you can ride you do security in the Toy Story parking lot, and then you ride the shuttle right into Disneyland. So, it's a really great option for and it's Toy Story shuttle's free. Mm-hmm. So it's not an extra expense to get back and forth. And also right outside the Cambria, there's also a whole shopping center outside of the Cambria that's got restaurants and, a bunch of different shopping options right there. So it's a really good option. So if you're looking for something budget friendly with a lot of room, that's a good one.
Yep. I like that one. So the point is there's so much variety. There are so many things you can do. And just like we talked about in our previous episode, and I think already in this episode at one point, is just what it comes down to is the things that are important to you are what's important. It doesn't matter if one trip or one hotel offers this, if that thing isn't of a priority to you. If you don't need free breakfast, or if you don't need a water park because you don't care, by all means, don't pick that or don't prioritize that. But that's why we're trying to explain to you that there's different price points, and each price point comes with perks and pros and cons, and each hotel comes with pros and cons, and we can help you narrow down from the literally tens of options.
And if you think this sounds overwhelming, try doing the research on your own and seeing all those hotels stacked all around Disneyland, and you're I don't even know where to start. So we're trying to help you narrow down, we're helping you start by giving you 3 choices instead of 20 choices. So
because if you go look at a map of Disneyland, something that is literally across the street might be across the street on the back side. And if it's across the street on the back side, you're walking a mile and a half to get to the entrance. So and the other problem is sometimes hotels, the way that they represent where they're at makes us crazy, because they might say across the street from Disneyland, and they literally mean the street that they're on is a street that happens to cross by Disneyland, but they're a mile away.
I was really mad at this one hotel because they said they were a 10-minute walk from Disneyland, and I stayed at a property that was actually like probably about halfway between their property,
and that wasn't even a 10-minute
it was like a 15 to 20-minute walk. And I was like, are you what?
Yeah.
Did you teleport?
Yeah.
It's really frustrating.
Were you like running? Was it a 10-minute run?
I really, and you're also mathing maybe if you're walking at a very brisk pace,
not with toddlers,
with no children, and not at the end of the night,
Yeah. So that's what we can help you with. That's where we're going with
We're
this.
here.
Yeah. And we could talk about this for a long time, because it is one of our biggest pet peeves, is just
hotels being misrepresented, and when you could be somewhere for a minimal, it cost more, or
no difference. Yeah.
And so we just want to help you find that. So
Okay, so one more thing we want to quickly go over in this episode is, like we had mentioned before, is the budget of your food, because this is something that people do panic about. They're like, I have no idea if I need literally $1,000 or whatever. So this is kind of our rule of thumb. Food per person is, it depends. If you start with breakfast, if you're buying literally breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the parks, you can pretty much plan that your breakfast is going to be per person approximately $8 to $12. So write this down somewhere. This is like anything from
just for your breakfast entree. If you're wanting to buy a coffee or a orange juice for your kid, or like there's drinks are always going to be more. This is like
this is like talking about maybe
feeding your belly.
This is sitting at Red Rose Tavern and getting a pancake with a couple slices of bacon, or getting a little breakfast bowl, or getting a breakfast burrito from Galactic Grill. $8 to $12. That's what you can expect. You can spend lower if you, for instance, just go buy a muffin from Jolly Holiday, or you decide a churro is your breakfast, or
if you're just
your
a coffee person.
Like you can do that. But just generally speaking, you're looking $8 to $12. You could completely avoid this cost by either having a hotel with a free breakfast. But the point is, sometimes people get so stuck on, I need free breakfast, that they don't realize that really, like, maybe they're getting free breakfast, but maybe they're paying more than $8 to $12 per person per day.
Based on this family of 4 that we're talking about, you're going to spend $40 on breakfast, a day. Is your hotel
more than $40 a night extra?
Far away? Because it's far away, are you now paying for parking at the Disneyland hotel? I mean, at the parking structure that you wouldn't have to pay for if you stayed closer without breakfast and then bought breakfast. So there's things that you need to kind of math here a little bit.
You can also choose, especially if you have little kids that or maybe don't care that much, you can always bring shelf-stable foods like granola bars, Pop-Tarts, little bags of Pirate Booty, or whatever is the kind of thing, like granola type things to tide your kids over, and maybe plan it for an early lunch. This is kind of what we do. We usually either do a big breakfast and a more like snacky lunch and then a bigger dinner, or we do a minimal breakfast and then more like normal lunch and dinner. We typically only buy like 2 meals a day in the parks, and that's kind of how we roll. Especially if we're doing like a more of a sit down expensive dinner, you kind of snack through the day a little bit. You're sort of tiding yourself over a little bit. So that's something to think about too. But for the purpose of this, write down $8 to $12 for breakfast, and then $10 to $15 per person for lunch. That might be a hamburger at Galactic Grill. That might be a couple of skewers of meat and a breadstick at Bengal Barbecue. That might be a slice of pizza and a soda at Pizza Planet. That's kind of like giving you a ballpark quick service. So per person per day, what is that? Maybe $30-ish in food per person per day if you're doing 3 meals.
No.
Oh, I was going off of this 10 and this 12.
Oh.
So if you're on the $15 end, 3 times or twice a day plus your breakfast, you're looking at more like $45.
And then if you math in a snack, I always feel like $50 per person per day
is ample.
Is a pretty good like budget to think about if you're not doing sit down dining.
Yeah.
So that's including I'm getting a drink sometimes, or I'm getting a snack sometimes, or I'm sharing a meal with my little kids sometimes.
Or my kids are sharing with each other.
Like it kind of evens out. $50 per person per day makes you feel pretty okay. Literally focusing on buying only food in the park. Again, if you're supplementing with bringing in granola bars or, little baggies of carrots or whatever things to like help the kids snack throughout the day, there's ways to do it. Yeah. Cheaper.
Well, / you can do like really often my littler kids, they are happy with a pretzel as their whole lunch from the pretzel cart. And that's like $6. So sometimes depending on what it is, you're going to be higher or lower. I do feel like $50 a day per person feels ample unless you're doing a character dining or a sit down. And that's usually only one time on your trip. It's almost its own budget, not to be like connected to this. When it comes to character dining, I did write down just quickly so that you can easily jot this down yourself, what to expect with different price points. So a sit down reservation, that's like Lamplight Lounge, Wine Country Trattoria, Cafe Orleans, River Belle Terrace, any of those where you like make a reservation, sit down, have a server, you're looking at about 10 to 15 per kid. And that's just for a standard like kids meal type situation, and 20 to 30 per adult. So like if you go to Lamplight, it's going to be like $26 for a burger and fries. That's just what it costs. So
and then you also need to plan that you're doing tips and
and like probably getting a fun drink or at least a soda or whatever. So think about it really broadly, and you can always go look at the menus and look up your prices on your own. But this is just so you can fill this out. And really, realistically, our rule of thumb is sort of like max one sit down per day. And that's really max. Like we're talking realistically like we were saying on a 5-day trip, maybe more like 2 to 3 sit down dinings. And the rest of the time it's quick service, it's snacks in between, it's that kind of stuff.
Well, and if you're a Disney Worlder, this sounds really weird because Disney World is so about the dining. The dining experiences are almost a whole part of what you're doing in Disney World. Disneyland, there's really only so many places to even
and the food's
sit
good.
down dine.
Yeah, I feel like the food's good, but there's not like a million places to choose from.
No, it's not part of your whole experience.
No.
So it's like if you want to try Lamplight Lounge on your 4-day vacation,
do it.
Have that be one of your meals.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it and the thing that's ample, which I feel like is harder in Disney World, is quick service. I feel like it's harder to find normal a variety of quick service things in Disney World versus Disneyland. Disneyland has a lot as far as quick service options.
Yeah.
And their breakfast menus are very different from their lunch menus. Like I feel like I went to Hollywood Studios one time with my husband, and we couldn't find anywhere to eat breakfast. Like there was not. We actually ended up getting like a Jack cookie because that's like all there was. So we had like a dining reservation for like 11, and we were like just wanting something to kind of tide us over.
Impossible.
It was impossible.
Yeah, so and at Disneyland you wouldn't have that problem.
You would have no problem.
Yeah. So the point is, ballpark, max one sit down per day, realistically more like one every other day of your trip. A character dining, maybe once on your whole trip. If that's something that's important to you, you're going to splurge and plan for a character dining at some point.
But
Which
are also good like on an arrival day or like when you're not even it's where
for a departure day
experience for the day.
As part of your fun when maybe you don't have a park ticket, but you want to feel like your fun has started or whatever. And one thing we did want to mention is it is possible to have a trip entirely composed of quick service. And actually the majority of our trips that we do with just us are solely quick service. The only time we usually get dining reservations is either if we're with friends or maybe with our husbands and kids and that's like our fun event for the week, So just keep that in mind. There's no expectation that you're spending $1 million. You can realistically do the whole $50 or less per person per day, generally speaking, and never spend $26 on a burger the whole time you're in Disneyland. And no one will know any different. It's totally up to you. But I did just want to run over these numbers. So sit down reservations, like I said, $10 to $15 per kid, 20 to 30 for adults. That's before drinks and tips and all that kind of stuff. Character dining, Goofy's Kitchen, of those 3 is typically the most expensive, and that's usually because they often will run like seasonal things that have like higher cuts of meat, prime rib, crab claws, that kind of stuff. And even when they're not doing that, they tend to offer more protein in general at their dinner, because they have a dinner. It's like, you know, the cutting board places and a lot more of that kind of thing. So their food's a little more expensive. You're looking at breakfast there is like 36 for kids, 65 for adults. Dinner during their more seasonal is 39 per kid and 75 for adults. So that can add up really fast. By the time you pay tip and tax, that's toward $100 an adult. And it's fun, and you meet a lot of characters, and your kids have a great time.
And it's kind of your fun for the night.
It's your event, then great. Or someone's birthday or whatever. I've definitely splurged on this. It's fun. My kids love it. It's not necessary if you're on a budget.
I've been to Disneyland lots of times with my kids. We've done one character dining ever with them, and it was back at Paradise Pier. When it was Paradise Pier, it was like their breakfast, and it was on our departure day, and it was like what we wanted to do, and it was several $100s for our whole experience, and it was just more than my kids cared about, and they don't super love meeting characters, so even that part's a little like not great for them. So for our family, character dining is not a thing. For her family, her kids really love it and really enjoy the characters, and it's more of a important part of their trip. So it's, again, not necessary.
Nope.
But a fun addition if you have the budget and the time.
Yep. So that's Goofy's Kitchen. And then you've got Plaza, which only serves breakfast, and it's in the park. And that's like $30 per kid, $50 per adult.
It's like it's the cheapest breakfast option of all of
the character dinings.
It's a little harder to get because it's
a smaller location. It runs for less hours overall because it kicks into lunch quicker than like Storytellers and stuff does. So it's harder to find. You do get fun, more rare characters there, but you're also cutting into your park day to go there. You have to be, because it's in Disneyland. Where with something like Goofy's Kitchen or Storytellers, you can choose a departure day or an arrival day and not waste park time if you choose to. So that's kind of the pros and cons of that one. It's a really fun one. I love it. I haven't done it since like pre-COVID, I don't think, but we like that one. And then Storytellers, which is actually my ultimate favorite, because I'm not a huge buffet person. I think I mentioned this before in other episodes. I am kind of a picky eater. I don't like a lot of variety. So things like Goofy's Kitchen, especially at dinner, where it's like a lot of dinner foods, is not really my thing, but I can take down a hell of a lot of Mickey waffles and bacon.
Okay, so I don't know what it is with the Mickey waffles at Storytellers.
They're delicious.
I think they put something in them. They're so good.
Well, and the bacon, and then fresh whipped cream. Like they have like
thick cut bacon and fresh whipped cream that you like literally scoop out of a bowl. Like it's not coming out of a can.
And actually, one time I always think back to this one time I was there with just my husband, and we went there for brunch, and they had the best raspberries I've ever had in my entire life. They were so good. And then I got them the next time, and the season was different, and they just weren't as good, and it was kind of crappy. But I'm telling you, Storytellers, it's the most like bougie character dining, other than like the Princess Napa Rose ones, which we're not even going to go into here. It's the most bougie, and it has the most variety of foods. You can also order things that are included in your overall eating experience that they bring to your table that aren't even on the buffet. So we really like Storytellers. But back to the budget. Anywhere from $40 per kid to $75 per adult. That's where you're ballparking for a character dining experience. Hopefully that just gives you, the point is just ballpark. We have whole episodes where we've talked specifically about dining and gone into much more detail.
Go back and watch them. You can hear about all our opinions on all of it.
Yeah.
This is more just to help you math your money.
Yep. And then the last thing we wanted to just quickly hit, we actually have to go pick up our kids from school, so we've got to wrap this up. Got to stop talking, is souvenirs. So you can go ahead and go over souvenirs.
So everyone always asks us, they're like, I've got like $200 per kid. Is that enough? And we're like, oh my gosh, that's so much.
Like they won't know what to do with that.
But not saying that that's a problem if that's your budget, but I'm just saying, like, if you are like, I want my kid to get a token gift from Disneyland and take it home with them, we've budgeted out a little, like, put what you can get for a certain amount of money here, and I'll kind of go over it. If you have like $10 to $20 per kid for a little token take home gift, they can find something. There's lots of like pens and autograph books. There's little like magnets and pins and blind boxes and necklaces and keychains and all that sort of like those little things you'd see
kind of at the cash registers. Yeah.
There's lots of things kind of in that $10 to $20 range. If you're like, just go pick a little something, that's totally acceptable. They will be so happy. Like our kids, like, don't feel like you have to go like way over budget. You've already given them such a fun experience being there in the parks and everything, and them just having a little thing to take home. And by the way, if you get them a big giant thing to take home,
you gotta get it home
half the time they play with it for a minute and it's just amongst the toys at home. So if they can find some special token, a $10 to $20 thing may be perfect. In the $20 to $40 range, you're going to be able to pick out a stuffy, like a pretty good sized stuffy, or like a pair of ears, or a hat, or
t-shirt.
like t-shirt, or like water bottles and mugs and things like that. That's kind of where you're getting to that price range. Some little toys and things like that, or like shoulder pet guys. All of those things are right in that like $20 to $40 range. $40 to $75, you're going to start to get like sweatshirts and like spirit jerseys and things like that. Like if they're wanting a more intense, gift like that to take home that they're going to be using. And then once you get over the $75 range, then we're talking about droid building, that you reserve back in Batu, or lightsaber building. You're looking at, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique is a good, like, souvenir-y thing that you get to go do. But again, it's expensive and it's more of a whole experience thing. But again, something you can do. Back in the $20 to $40 range, though, that I didn't mention is that there are buildable kids lightsabers in Star Traders. And so if you don't want to do the big, like, $200 lightsaber, you can do the build your own lightsabers for like $30. And that's a really fun, substantial take-home item as well. So anyway, like, whatever your budget is, it's very easy to let your kids take home a little souvenir and not spend $1 million. And if souvenirs just aren't in your budget, just don't worry about it. Have the fun, put it towards your food and your snacks and your entertainment, and go home with your memories instead.
There's also one thing we didn't talk about, is a lot of people will pre-purchase their souvenirs. Like, it's less fun because they can't go pick them out. But I'm saying, like, if you really want your kids to be able to have something to remember the trip by, maybe buy them a pair of ears on Amazon before you go, and you know, like, or have them arrive at the hotel and have a little stuffy that you picked up at Walmart sitting there.
We've done before things like pajamas, like Disney pajamas, that we then give them like on the first trip night, and they have like Disney pajamas,
or like a cute little blanket or sweatshirt or whatever that you bought specifically for the purpose of the trip, a little backpack for the airplane with some little dollar store things inside. There's other ways to provide them with physical things if you feel like that's important, without feeling like it necessarily even has to be in the park, you know? So just something else to keep in mind. I feel like it's hard because once kids are in there, there's something about the acquisition that's important to them. And so, like Britton said, the $10 to $20 range, where maybe they get a keychain or a little bracelet or something, kind of satisfies that a little bit, without you having to break the bank. But if it's just if it's outside of your budget, go to the dollar store before you go and grab a couple things and have them open one on the day that you're going, you know, like you can minimize it. And that goes for every aspect of your Disneyland planning. You don't have to go in matching t-shirts. You don't have to buy ears for every outfit. You don't have to X, Y, or Z. You can go in your normal clothes and your normal shoes and your no ears and take your purse. You don't need a lounge fly, you know, like, just don't be pressured into that. It's all fun, additional things that you can do. And if you have the budget and you don't need to worry about it, then great, but don't feel the pressure. I feel like there's so much pressure to look a certain way and be a certain way, and, you know, have your a
family trip. Disney photo look right when you come home.
Yeah.
Like, please just like focus, like, don't feel like it's so out of, you know, once you add up all the food and all the souvenirs and all the hotel and all that, like, just focus on what your family needs and what your trip is and your memories you're making, and don't be pressured by this extra stuff. If the extra stuff is in budget and sounds great, like, do the dining package, do the fun things, add on, but you could have such a lovely trip in the park in the most minimal
your
way.
Pop-Tart breakfast.
Like, yes. And your Uncrustables that you brought in from the hotel. Like, absolutely do that thing. We just wanted to help give you an idea of what it would be if these things are important to you, if a sit-down dining is expensive is important, if a character dining is important, so that you can budget accordingly. And we want to help you find that. We want to help you save money on your hotel so you can eat in the park or whatever makes sense. So
right. And also one last thing before we go. Is just to say that if you feel like you're just barely outside of attaining these things and they are important to you, give yourself another 6 months before you take the trip. There's never not a good time. It's like we said in the last post or the last podcast episode, there's always something fun happening at Disneyland. And maybe, spring break feels too close and too fast, but maybe Christmas feels like enough time to put away the money that you need in order to make these pieces happen. And so there's no shame in like waiting. There's no shame in rescheduling if it's getting too close and you're feeling like it's out of reach. There's no shame in switching from the Disneyland hotel to the Grand Legacy because you realize it's just more money than you can spend or want to spend. Don't feel the pressure because the trip is about your memories and that's all you take home, and your kids are going to have the same amount of fun whether or not you do this or you choose this. And my
kids regularly talk about some experience they had on a ride with Dad before they talk about the bubble wand that's collecting dust in my garage.
Yeah.
So
just remember that. Like, give them the memories by providing the trip. And if other pieces fall into place, great. If they don't stress about it. Yeah. Just let it be what it is. And we're here to help you work within your budget as close as we can and advise you in a way that makes it so this is possible. And
so if you feel like you're getting ready to plan something, want to price something out, getting ready to get $200 down on a vacation, start planning for it, fill out the quote request in our bio or below this video, or ask us, send us a message if you can't find it. We're happy to send you the link. We can quote out Disneyland. Also, if you're like, I'm over Disneyland, I've been a lot, but we can do Disney World, we can do Aulani, we can do Disney Cruise Line, we can book you a Universal trip if that sounds fun. We can do a combination trip. Like we do lots of complicated trips all the time. So we're happy to help let's do some memories this year. Plan a trip.
People need less stuff. Your kids need less stuff. They need more memories.
Ain't that the truth?
Okay. Till next time.